Today, we are talking about 10 griefy New Year's resolutions. Why? Well, let's face it, resolutions after you've lost a child, that seems like the strangest thing ever. But we need to talk about New Year's and child loss and grief support because everything is different now. I wanted to share with you my first New Year's. Actually, it was leading up to New Year's because here's what happened. If you watched the last YouTube episode about surviving Christmas after child loss, you will remember that I shared with you that in order to survive Christmas, my son and my husband and I decided to get the heck out of here. We drove from Saskatchewan, where we live, 2 provinces over to BC, to where my brother lives, to do some skiing, snowboarding, and frankly, just to not be home. And we did that. And I patted myself on the back for surviving Christmas. I mean, Christmas was 17 days after we lost Katie. And I somehow survived. And when we got home after driving for 2 straight days, we were exhausted. Like, you know what it's like. Road trips are exhausting. And then you add grief. But I remember coming in the house, taking off my jacket, taking off my winter boots. And our Christmas tree was directly across from our front entry. It was like it was mocking me. You know, it was all shiny and pretty and happy. I had put our Christmas tree up days before Katie died, and it was still up. And when we got home after Christmas, so between Christmas and New Year's is when we came home, that thing was still standing there, just screaming Christmas and screaming happy and screaming joy. Like, right? That was Christmas before we lost our kids. And I'll tell you, I was so angry. I remember stomping over to that tree and ripping the ornaments practically off of that tree and like throwing them into the boxes. I was so mad. I couldn't get the ornaments off the tree fast enough. And then I fell to my knees and I sobbed. To me, even though we know every year that New Year's follows Christmas exactly to the week, right? Exactly 7 days after Christmas is New Year's Day. But somehow in the shock and the blur of my grief, like I say, I kind of thought, whew, oh, got through Christmas somehow. And bam, New Year's, the whole concept of New Year's punched me in the gut. I almost kind of forgotten about it. And because I kind of let my hair down and I thought, oh, thank goodness, you know, like we made it through Christmas. I was unprepared for New Year's, right? Like I was all tensed up and I'd made a plan and did all this for Christmas, totally unprepared for New Year's and the punch that it brought. And I was trying to figure out, even after all these years, why does New Year's sometimes create more friction for those of us who are grieving? And I don't know if this is right or wrong, but it seems possible that we are so focused on Christmas and the pain of Christmas and the anxiety of the lead up that we kind of forget about New Year's, and then it's there. And like Christmas, I mean, Christmas, right? The focus is joy, and everywhere you go, there's Christmas carols and people sending you happy Christmas cards and all that stuff. Well, the same can be said for New Year's. It's different, but everyone's talking about New Year's resolutions, and it's a new year. It's an opportunity to make new changes and all this jazz. While our world has come crashing down. Like the concept of creating resolutions, frankly, is just like, huh? It's almost like a foreign language. So all of this just smacked me right in the gut, and my husband too. Like, I think we literally pulled the blinds down and locked the door, turned out the lights. It seemed like for a week after we got home. We were just basically avoiding the whole thing as much as we could. But now that 9 years have gone by, I've had a little bit of practice at dealing with all this. I wanted to give you, maybe a newer grieving mom, somebody who's been on their journey for less time than me, or maybe somebody who's been on longer, some griefy resolutions. Okay, so we're not talking about running a 5K. We're not talking about losing 10 pounds or going to the gym every day or whatever, although there's nothing wrong with those. These resolutions are directly related to coping and your grief. So let's jump in. I've got 10 of them for you. Number 1, be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself. If you are like most grieving moms, or like me, right? I don't do this every day all the time, but I think, ooh, am I working on my grief enough? Am I doing too okay? Am I not grieving right? Right? We need to step back from that. And we need to be okay with whatever our grief looks like. If it's getting out of bed, having a shower, getting back in bed, that's okay. I also have a saying, and I believe it to be true, that feeling is healing. So if you are literally just sitting in your grief, sitting in your pain, crying, feeling the feelings, I say that feeling is healing. Okay, so remember that and give yourself some compassion and grace. Resolution number 2, say their name. I don't know about you, but when somebody says Katie's name, it's like the angels are singing. I love to hear her name, even if it's not her name, even if somebody else is talking about a different Katie. My ears poke up and I just love to hear her name. So you say their name. Say it often. Work it into conversations. Here's what I've learned is that when we say our child's name often and it becomes a regular thing, other people are going to know that it's okay to mention our children's name, to say their name, to tell stories, to bring your child into the conversation. So, for example, I work in healthcare. I work with a lot of younger women. A lot of them have younger children. And I have talked about Katie so much, even after she died, that they will often turn to me and say, if they're talking about toilet training, for example, they'll turn to me and say, hey, what was Katie like when you were toilet training her? Things like that. So because I talk about Katie a lot, it makes it okay and easier for other people to talk about your child. Number 3, I love this one. Be what you loved most about your child. My daughter was spunky. She was always full of energy. She loved helping people. She loved to have fun. And she was building a bucket list for traveling the world. So I have, as much as possible, tried to adapt my favorite things about Katie into my life. I'm a pretty serious, straight-laced kind of gal, but I am trying to be a more fun person. I am trying to be a kinder, more helpful person. And I have created my own bucket list for traveling the world. In fact, we have just gone to Morocco. And since Katie died, we've gone to Italy. And our list is growing. I don't know if I'll get to all the places, but we love to travel now. And everywhere we go, I either bring a little tiny bit of Katie's ashes to spread in the ocean. We spread some in the Sahara Desert recently. So Katie can be all over the world. Or when we were in LA, for example, I have a sticker, a KB sticker that's got angel wings on it, Katie Bain. And we stuck that on a pole on Hollywood Boulevard. So she could be there, right, on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. So think about what your child stood for. And if they were young, think about what was their favorite personality trait that you love and that you would love to emulate? Be more like that. Number 4, let go of others' expectations. This is big. I have a friend, and she calls it shoulding on people. When other people say you should do this, you should do that, you should do it this way, they're shoulding on you, and nobody should on you, and we should not let anybody should on us. But other people's expectations, that's their stuff. Now, unfortunately, the majority of the world goes by and refers to the 5 stages of grief. We're all familiar with it. We've all heard it. And for most of us, I would say 99% of us, that theory does not apply. And that is another episode for another day, which I will get into. But just know that I would say, now this is a guess, but I'm going to say that 90% of the population, this is the only reference they have to grief. Okay. And just to put this into perspective, I work in healthcare. I work with death and dying. I work with cancer patients. In my training, I remember this clear as day for some odd reason. Having a speaker in, I had half a page of notes. Half a page. This is supposed to prepare me for conversations with my patients and their families. Now I know better. But my point is that so many people rely on that as a point of reference that when people spew that stuff out, we have to give them a little bit of grace. Honestly, before Katie died, I relied on that. I thought that's what grief looked like. I thought you went through the stages, you got to the end, and you were done. Now I know better. So don't let people shit on you. Do grief your own way, but also give them a bit of grace. Number 5, make space for joy. Yes, I said joy. Now, a lot of you might think that that is betraying your child. Like, how can I be happy? How can I be happy? My child died. Well, I'm here to tell you that not every emotion has to be carried on its own. Not every emotion is a silo. We don't ever just feel one emotion, which I didn't know about until recently. So there's a long story that goes with this. And if you've listened to other episodes of the Angel Moms podcast, you may have heard me talk about this concept of carrying grief in one hand and joy in the other. And it's entirely possible. Let me tell you this. Let's say you're watching an old rerun of Friends and you giggle and you laugh. And for a minute, half a second, you're lost in that funniness. You might laugh out loud. You might smile. You might belly laugh. When you did that, did you forget your child? No, never going to happen. Did you stop grieving because you giggled for a minute? No. So that's what I mean. We can feel both things. And I really think that life after grief, after loss, is all about learning to carry that grief, right? We build our lives around that grief. And building our lives means bringing some of these other things back into our world, like being open to joy again, right? So make space for it, allow it, and know that it's not going to take your grief away. Know that it's not going to make you forget your child or anything like that, and be okay with it. Okay, no guilt. Number 6, share memories of your child with your family. Here's what I've learned. It's not only us that are missing our child, our other children, our nieces, our nephews, the grandparents, Maybe you have grandchildren. When we talk about and share our child that went to heaven, we are doing a lot of things. One, we're saying to these other family members, hey, I love to talk about my child. Remember, I talked about that a couple steps ago. The more we talk about our children, the more other people are likely to talk about our children. Plus, we are changing the narrative around how to act and react when someone dies. Not that long ago, I'm going to say a generation ago, maybe 2 generations, depending on how old you are, it was normal to never talk about grief, right? I have a very good friend who lost a brother at a young age. That was never talked about in her house. Never. We can change that. We can show people that talking about grief, talking about loss, talking about the one who passed away can be very healing. And we can change the way that society is dealing with grief. We can be the teachers. Okay. Number 7, reconnect with you. If you're like me and most grieving mothers that I have worked with, it is very, very common that we forget who the heck we are besides a grieving mother. In one of my visits to my therapist, she called me out on this. She said to me, so tell me a little bit about Lisa. Who's Lisa? What does Lisa like to do? What does Lisa like to do for fun? And I remember sitting there just dumbstruck in silence. And the tears started to come down my cheeks because I didn't have an answer for her. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what fun was. I didn't know what I liked to do anymore. So she gave me some homework. And that was to do some deep dive work. Simple stuff. What did I used to like to do? Well, I've always liked creating things. I've always liked making things, crafty things, sewing, learning how to do new things. And she helped me explore that and helped me re-examine who Lisa is besides a grieving mother. So I want you to do that. And if you're like me and you're like, I don't have a clue, I want you to think back to the things that you used to love to do. Start there. And maybe before your child died, maybe there was something that you wanted to learn how to do. Maybe you wanted to tackle a 5K. Get back to that because you are important too. Number 8, set boundaries. Man, oh man, this took me a long time to learn. Because here's what I'm going to share with you. I'm a recovering people pleaser. My entire life, most of what I do or have done is to please other people. Choosing that career, all the things, dating that guy, on and on and on. And with grief, I found that I was trying to please other people in my grief. And if you remember back to what I said a few minutes ago about all the shoulds and people shoulding on me, shouldn't you be over this by now? Shouldn't you be crying less? All that kind of stuff. I needed to set healthy boundaries because I was getting too much should in my life. And as a people pleaser, it was really hard. But here's what I've learned. My boundaries might affect other people. They might make other people upset or make them feel confused. That's on them. Because now I have clear lines in the sand. There are certain people that are not helpful on my grief journey, friends, family, and all of the above. And I have clear lines. I spend less time with the people who don't help me on my journey. And I have become very comfortable at saying no to certain social situations, no to certain circumstances, no to certain people. And it's getting easier. So I challenge you to do that too. Number 9, support groups. I invite you to check out some support groups. Here's why. No one, and I mean no one, understands your grief journey like another grieving mom. Now, unfortunately, there are some great groups and there are some not great groups, and you have to be brave and put on your big girl panties, and you've got to be brave to try out some different ones. Now, just like we were all different people before our children died, we're all different people now, and different things resonate with us, and different groups are going to resonate with us too. So you have to be brave and allow yourself to try out some different things until you find the right fit. It's like a good therapist, right? You don't want to go to just anyone. You want to go to somebody where you feel comfortable and it's a good fit. Now, this leads me into sharing something with you that's coming up in the next month or so. I am creating a grief support group for angel moms, and it's going to be a safe space where we can share our feelings, walk together, and actually start our healing journey together. Yep, you heard me, healing journey. Anyway, if you are interested in any way, shape, or form, no obligations, I would suggest you get on the wait list, because the people who are on the wait list are going to learn when that support group is launching, and they'll get notification first. So I will put it down below in the description, but it is griefsupportformoms.com, griefsupportformoms.com/support. Okay. And there will be a form there you can fill out to get onto the wait list. And last but not least, number 10 is I want you to make a grief resolution for healing. Now, I know there is a lot of you that hate the word healing, but just stick with me for a minute. Never in a gazillion years will I ever think or expect that a grieving mom will be healed. Not happening. Not possible. We will carry our grief forever. However, we can work on our grief. We can work on our healing. We can do some of the healing work that is necessary for coping and managing grief. That is not to say that you're going to get to an end point, but I do promise you that there are tools, there are strategies, there are comprehensive things that you can do to help yourself. And honestly, you're the only one that can do it. So what I want you to do for this griefy resolution is I want you to pick one concrete thing that you can commit to. It doesn't have to be hard. It might be self-care related. It might be going out for a walk every single day, rain or shine or snow. It might be journaling every day. It might be being open to different grief tools. It might be trying grief yoga. You get the picture, but put your foot out there and try some different things with the thought that it's going to help you in your grief journey. Now, as I've said numerous times, this is your journey. It's your timeline, and nobody can tell you how to do your grief. But I will say that trying different things, listening to different podcasts like this, reading different books, connecting with other grieving mothers will help you know what resonates with you. And it's just like trying new food. Sometimes you got to try a few things to figure out what you like, what resonates with you, what feels comfortable for you. Remember, I'm always walking beside you. If this episode has resonated with you and you think it might help someone else, I'd love you to share this with them. One of the best ways that we can help each other is to share the resources that are helping us. Until next time, Angel Mom, take care, and we'll catch you next time.